I never thought I'd see this again. Patrick Kane back in a Chicago Blackhawks uniform years after they traded him to the New York Rangers. One of the greatest American-born players ever, the definition of a clutch performer, and one of the greatest Blackhawks of all time is officially coming back home on a 2-year deal with Chicago at 37 years of age. This is probably his last rodeo, and he's choosing to do it on a rebuilding Blackhawks team that is desperate to take the next step and get back to the winning ways that Kane himself played a massive part in creating. This was a move that Chicago fans were begging to get, especially with Connor Bedard hurt. But how much will Patrick Kane truly help? Well, let's dive into Kane's game at 37, what he still does better than most even at his age, how that aligns to how the Blackhawks want to play moving forward, and most importantly, how it will all fit with Connor Bedard. First, let's take a look at the contract and the Blackhawks situation as a whole this offseason. The deal is 2 years, $8 million a year, and everyone's immediate reaction is, whoa, $8 schmil for a 37-year-old Patrick Kane seems like a steep overpayment, and you wouldn't be wrong. It is certainly pricey for a player his age, but when you look at the Blackhawks situation, it does make sense. Chicago, prior to the signing, had close to $15 million in cap space, and after this, they still have $7 million to play with. Considering that the free agent pool is very, very thin and the Blackhawks roster itself is also pretty thin, Patrick Kane was Chicago's best chance at getting another top 6 forward without giving up another asset. Combine that with the fact that Connor Bedard is supposed to be hurt for the first month of the season, Chicago desperately needs skill in their top 6. Kane could slot right in and make an immediate impact, making it the perfect situation for a homecoming. Now, a lot of Blackhawks fans are really excited, and rightfully so, considering that the man is a legend in the city of Chicago. But it's no secret, Chicago is not a good team. In fact, when Connor Bedard got hurt earlier this offseason and required shoulder surgery, this lineup had the makings to be a lottery squad yet again. I'm sure ownership is not crazy about that idea, and signing a guy like Patrick Kane after your franchise superstar is slated to miss the beginning of the year will probably help ease the blow on ticket sales, especially if Chicago is brutal to start the year. But more than nostalgia, what sells tickets is winning, and from a hockey perspective, this is a winning move for Chicago that makes them better today. Patrick Kane still has some game left in him. Last year, he had 57 points in 67 games, which put him 5th on the Red Wings in scoring. Chicago fans obviously know what Patrick Kane has looked like at his best, a skilled, game-breaking winger who can dictate the pace of the game at his will, making every player around him even better. There was no one more electric than a prime Patty Kane, but even though those days are gone, there's still some things that Kane does really well to help the Blackhawks and Connor Bedard. Let's start with the advanced numbers from HockeyStats.com that tell us right away where Kane is still an elite player, and that is still primarily off the rush, as he ranks in the 96th percentile in rush shot assists, 98th percentile in rush shots, and in the 100th percentile when it comes to rush offense as a whole. When we think of offensive rush creation, we automatically assume that speed always kills, and it does in certain situations, but the very best in the game in this area are the players who can slow it down as easily as they can elevate the pace with the puck. Patrick Kane is no longer a fast player compared to his peers. Old Father Time has come for the tree trunks, but Patrick Kane was never a straight burner in his prime either. Instead, he leaned on his quickness and agility to use cutbacks, spinoramas, and delays to create his offense. This is still very prevalent in his game today. Take this play here. Kane is not moving very fast at all, and this is a 2-on-2 situation. Initially, it's very subtle, but as he gains the blue line, watch how he ever so slightly changes speed with a slight shave of his skates. This does 3 things. It allows his teammate DeBrincat, who is coming with speed, to get ahead of the puck and drive the middle lane here while pushing back this defender. Second, it also gives Kane a little bit of extra space to work with in front of him. And lastly, it allows his third man a chance to get up the ice and present himself as an option. The man is barely moving at this point, but a slight change in speed has given him all these options. And when no option materializes, he takes that space and puts one on net that is eventually cleaned up by the center lane driver. This from last season is also OG vintage Patrick Kane, as once again he finds himself in the exact same area of the ice and not in great position outside of the dots without a ton of speed. Buffalo is doing a great job at marking each of their men on this rush chance, but this is where Kane has cooked his entire career and continues to cook even at 37. Again, We see this slight stop up, and here he's actually going to flip his hips to open himself up to the offensive blue line. Now he's created a slight gap from this defender while finding the open space on the ice. He hits the late D-man jumping up and getting active, and it results in a Detroit goal. This is where a player like Bo Byram can really benefit as well from Patrick Kane. There was a lot of blowback and surprise when Chicago got Byram by trading this year's 4th overall pick. They then proceeded to hand him a 6-year, $75 million contract extension that'll kick in next season, paying him $12.5 million a year and making him one of the highest paid defensemen in the league. Pretty ballsy considering that he's never been a number 1 defenseman, but he believes he is, and so do the Chicago Blackhawks, so they gave him the bag. Byram is an offensive defenseman at his core. He loves to jump up in the rush and activate once he's used his legs to break out the puck. Kane has made a career out of finding the late defenseman joining the rush with these type of stop-up plays. So having a defenseman like Byram activate on the weak side on rush entries will certainly help Chicago be more dynamic in their attack. Of course, Kane will help Connor Bedard more than anyone on the rush. Bedard has quickly emerged as one of the best rush players in the game, and that's because he's made a conscious effort last season to improve his foot speed and deception in his attack. Because of this, he's among the top of the league at zone entries and entries with possession. With Kane's playmaking vision on Bedard's wing, naturally, Bedard will get more dangerous looks in this area of the game, but what will help him most is that he finally has someone that can finish his plays. This is something that Chicago has been looking for quite some time in the Bedard era, and Patrick Kane, at 37 years of age, is still incredibly intelligent with his puck routes on these rush plays to get himself open for a dangerous chance. Take this play here. DeBrincat is with possession on the rush, and Seattle again does an okay job of marking their man here at this point of the play. But look at Kane as soon as he reaches the red line. He switches to a glide to match the speed of the play and then begins to shift towards the middle of the ice in order to create a gap upon entry between him and this defenseman. Now, once Detroit enters the zone, look how much space Kane has given himself just with his route to accept this puck. Then this is the difference in quality that Bedard is really going to notice with his new teammate. Look at this first touch from Kane. It's tight to his feet, but in one motion, watch him with his left foot to anchor to adjust where the pass will be, and then he uses a quick ankle collapse with that same left foot to accept the puck into his hip pocket. And in one motion, he's put himself in a shooting position, and that is where he buries. The truly elite of the game age slower than most, and that right there is a perfect example. Bedard, for the first time maybe in his career, will have an elite talent to make these difficult plays and touches inside the dangerous areas of the ice to finish his play. And so the next area that Kane still thrives in by all logic is possession in the O-zone. Over the years, because of the lack of skill with Bedard, a lot of plays die on his teammate's stick. Whether he's setting them up on a platter or giving them a chance to extend the possession, there just hasn't been a lot to work with. Kane will help in this area, especially along the half wall. Because of his elite hands and vision, Kane still thrives on that right half wall when it comes to extending plays and off the first touch to find the most dangerous man in that moment. Something that Bedard and his shot would welcome with open arms. Bedard, like most elite finishers, is already pretty exceptional at finding those soft spots of the ice to use his release. But having Kane in these offensive situations with him should give Bedard more looks. This should work both ways as well, as Kane still has a knack for seeking out those lapses in defensive coverage. Again, it's a finishing touch that should fit well with Bedard's playmaking ability. Now, the next area, of course, is the power play. Chicago last year had one of the worst power plays, ranking 29th in the league, converting at just 16.9%. Detroit was much better, ranking 11th, with Patrick Kane primarily on the right flank running the show. Chicago, like Detroit, runs a 1-3-1. Last year, it mostly consisted of Bedard on the right flank, Rinzel or Levchinov at the point, Teravainen on the left flank, Nazar in the bumper, and Bertuzzi at the net front or goal line. This year, it'll look different. Byram will be at the point. They'll keep Nazar and Bertuzzi right where they belong, but the big question is, where do you put Bedard and Kane? Both prefer the right flank on the power play. The more traditional route would be to have Kane on that right flank and have Bedard on the left side so that each player on their offside can efficiently one-time the puck. Bedard is such a talent and his shot is so lethal that he's still very effective on that left flank as the one-time option. However, he is far more deadly on the right side. Because that shot is so lethal, he's automatically a dual threat whenever he has the puck. When he's in this load-up position, he can either pull it into his body to let one rip, or he can make a pass. And because that shot threat is so respected by goalies and defenders, naturally, it's opened up a lot of opportunities for him to move the puck, and it's made him an even better facilitator on that side. Both players, though, are so talented they can play either flank, and so Detroit did dabble at times with putting Kane on that left side, but at his best, he is still on the right flank surveying his options. So that'll be something that the coaching staff will have to decide on. Of course, we've focused a large part of this video on the positives and what should be a good fit for Kane, Bedard, and Chicago as a whole, but there are definitely some red flags. Kane is not great defensively, and he never has been. For a team that is not very good at defending and already struggles at moving the puck efficiently out of their own zone, this move will not help. Connor Bedard has made some massive strides in his defensive game, but it's not enough to hide the overarching team issues of defending. Again, Bo Byram should help get the puck up the ice to guys like Kane and Bedard more frequently to get them playing to their strengths, but it's still all just a theory as of right now. And at the end of the day, Chicago is still relying on a 37-year-old winger to help Bedard and this team to get out of the basement. And it's going to be even more difficult with Bedard scheduled to miss the beginning of the season. However, with all that being said, Patrick Kane is back home as a Chicago Blackhawk, and it's something I never thought I'd see again. So, what did you think of the contract and the fit? Do you think Kane will actually help, or do you think it'll be a total disaster? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm Anthony. I do all the breakdowns for the channel. If you want to stay up to date on all things NHL and dive deeper into the biggest moves, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss a single thing.